Alright guys, thank you for coming. Welcome to the Artosis Hour number 7. This episode with extra train noises. My new apartment is really close to the train tracks. Really nice apartment, but I have to do just a little bit of soundproofing I haven't gotten around to, so sorry about that ahead of time. You might hear a little bit in the background. I'm up pretty high, so it shouldn't be too bad. Well, today I'm going to be going over SaSe games from MLG's Winter Arena. And, I've done a lot of Terran and Zerg ones recently before I went ahead and had to move and go to MLG Winter Arena. So I wanted to bring it back around with a Protoss player this time. And specifically, there was a series that I was completely in love with, SaSe against San, that I didn't get to commentate while I was there. I actually was sitting on the side booths, if you watched it, where I would help analyze a little bit at the end. But especially one of the games, well, no, actually two of the games were just so beautiful that I have to go over them. The Entombed game is a waste. It's got like one lesson in it. But the Tal'Darim game and the Shakuras Plateau game are both two of the best PvPs that you are going to watch ever. We watch a lot of Protoss players just kind of do stuff, and there's no rhyme or reason for it. Whereas in this series, I felt like SaSe and San were playing almost perfect PvPs. It was really a beautiful thing. So I guess we'll go ahead and just get into that in just 1 second here. Alright. We will go ahead and start this out. Alright, so this is Game 2 from Loser Bracket Round 1 of MLG's Winter Arena. If you haven't checked that out, they have all the VODs and replays for free at this point, and I highly suggest it. There was like an amazing amount of great games from the tournament, and I'm sure this won't be the last day where I go over games from that tournament. Just so many awesome ones. I'm definitely going to have to do a DRG day because that guy is the best Zerg in the world, and that's like a treasure trove of his great replays. But anyways, as I was saying, this is game number 2. SaSe against San. San is a great top-end Korean Protoss. Even though he hasn't done so well in Korea lately, he's very good, and everyone knows he's very good. He's had a hard and frustrating time. Once you fall to Code B, it's really, really hard to get back into Code A. And even in Code A, it's so hard to get to Code S. It's a ridiculous tournament structure. It's so hard, and that's what makes the GSL so awesome. But anyways, SaSe, he's been living in Korea for a while. He's a very good player. I definitely suggest you check out his stream if you have any time for that. Oh, that was a little mistake, a double chrono there. It's totally worthwhile. He's really great Protoss, and a lot of his play is, he has a lot of smart play, and then he has a good amount of micro-based play, which isn't good to learn from, but it's sure as hell exciting to watch. So anyways, I'm going to skip over some of the early parts of this replay because it is Tal'Darim Altar, and Tal'Darim Altar for PvP. By the way, let me just go ahead and say, in case anyone's not looking closely, the blue player up here is San. The red player down there is SaSe. San won the first game. Alright, Tal'Darim Altar has a tactical wheel within it. Someone gave me that term from fencing, and it's the perfect way to describe it. Because of this choke, how you can't use one force field to block, there is a rotational wheel of builds that kill each other on this map. So the early game doesn't matter as much because it's just a series of risks where you guess as best you can. You just take the most highly educated risk you can figure out. So, I mean, the early game isn't the most important thing. I have to say, for SaSe, I love him opening up with 2 gateways here. I think 3 Stalker Rushes are one of the best ways to open up here, because you can still 4-gate, it gives you map control, and against some of these other builds, for instance, if you're playing against a 4-gate, you're going to stall their probe out so hard with a 3-gate Stalker Rush. It's just a really smart way to do it. And it's very interesting to see him go ahead and chrono boost out the Warp Gate upgrade, because normally with this build, you're going to chrono boost gateways to get the Stalkers out quicker. But on this map, someone might do a super 4-gate, so you have to really use a lot of them on your Warp Gate. It's kind of an interesting thing. And San's scouting a little bit quicker here. We see he is actually going into what looks like 3-gate pressure, getting his second gas as well. Pretty standard. A lot of the times you will see people just go right into Blink or Robo on this map. Again, it's just a series of calculated risks. And if you actually just get the wrong side of a build order on this map, or like Belshire Beach or something like that, the game will just end, and that's it. There's very little that you can actually do about it. Luckily, this time they both do similar builds, so we actually get to see a real game. So that's about all we can really say about the early game here. I mean, it looks like SaSe going for 3 gates as well. Now, the 3 gates normally goes into Twilight Councils better. And in fact, let's take a look at what both players have seen here at this point. SaSe actually didn't get to scout. He lost his probe. And let's grab San. He got to see all 3 gateways and 2 gas. So if I'm San right now, I'm thinking, okay, this is probably Twilight. 3 gate into Robo is a little bit slow. But 3 gate with 2 gas here, you can pump out a ton of stalkers, basically. And if you can pump out a ton of stalkers, you can go into Blink quite easily. And on a map without a ramp, Blink is even better than on a map with a ramp. So it's a strong choice. So SaSe is a little bit more in the dark. He doesn't really know what San is up to. But seeing 2 stalkers out, you might be thinking, okay, you know, it's 2 stalkers. It could be something similar. We see the warp gate finishing up here, and SaSe is about to finish up too. Very similar timings on that. And there's just some little microing in the center of the map, and that's pretty standard. Now this part's pretty interesting because SaSe is pushing forward with his 3 stalkers. Now, when you do a 3 stalker rush out of a couple gates, this isn't really the 3 stalker rush timing exactly. This is him being a little bit brave. He realizes he needs more intel. If you do a standard 3 stalker rush where you chrono boost out all 3 stalkers, you can literally take your stalkers and attack across the map, and you actually have the best army at that point in the game, unless they went really early gates and used all their chronos on gateway units. And I'm talking like 10 gates or maybe 11 gates and just really utilize that chrono. But anyways, so this is not completely foolproof, but he needs some sort of intel, so that's smart. I mean, he's got to get some, he has to figure out what's going on here somehow. So he sees 3 stalkers, and he's like, alright, I will get out of here. More stalkers incoming from San. So he just has to get out of here and not lose these stalkers. It's so important. He's already seen a lot of stalkers. He's seen 5. And so that starts to tell him, okay, it looks like Twilight Tech. If you're going Robo, you might add in a few more Zealots so you can get out your Immortals a bit quicker to deal with things like Twilight. So right now, SaSe has a pretty good tell on what's going on. Now, San has another stalker from this angle, and this is pretty cool because he has stalkers in hot pursuit. If he micros these correctly towards these stalkers, and hitting them every step of the way that he can, and he micros this one correctly, SaSe is going to lose probably 2 stalkers here. But we'll have to see if he micros just completely perfectly. And at this point, SaSe going down. He's got to be really careful about that. Oops. And so that's pretty painful. Looks like he's going to go ahead and lose a stalker right away. Now let's look at their bases and what they're actually doing. They are going Twilights. I just loved this game while I watched it. It's just, they're both so intelligent in it. He is bringing up 2 more stalkers, so he wants to have 5 stalkers here and be able to micro against his opponent, but San already has 6. He did not skimp on stalkers whatsoever, and in fact he's caught one because SaSe needed some extra intel. Remember, San got into the main base. He saw 3 gateways. That's some amount of intel at least. He's going to know timings from seeing those 3 gates, such as what are the quickest DTs, what's the quickest Colossus. If he's going for a Nexus, I kind of know the timing of that. So San's in a good place. SaSe had to get it. He got it by seeing how many stalkers there are, but now he's going to lose a stalker, and it's going to be 6 stalkers against 4 of SaSe's that are up here on the map. So SaSe obviously is going to have to win away. The really cool stuff's coming up pretty quickly here. I like sending that probe out. Really cool and smart. Sending the stalkers to each watchtower. The stalkers have a great field of vision. Wait. There we go. Look at SaSe's vision on the minimap. Right? I love him taking both these, but the thing is he took them just like exactly while he was taking them. San happened to walk down, so this could turn into a dangerous situation for SaSe because of how quickly this happened. Normally when you tell your 2 units to go to watchtowers in a situation like this, that's when you're going to jump back to your base and do something like make another building. And in fact, that's exactly what he was doing. That's just the way the flow of a pro gamer goes. So he jumped back at exactly that time. And at exactly that time, San entered his field of vision. Now, if you see the stalkers the second they start to enter, you can run away from here very easily. But as is, it looks like both these stalkers cannot get home without San's stalkers killing them off. And that's just, it's a lucky timing by San. He didn't know that at exactly that moment SaSe would be taking the towers and thus going back and making some more units. Or more buildings. But it's only 6, he has no proxy pylons, it's actually not a big deal. And SaSe was smart enough not to bring everything back. Okay, so he does have one that he kind of started to bring back, and he does have another one going over here. It looks like he wants to do some sort of pressure here, but don't forget he's going Dark Shrine. Now, at the same time, we have San going Dark Shrine and a Forge. He realizes that SaSe possibly, from the amount of stalkers he saw from SaSe after a 3-gate, there's a very big possibility that he's going up to a Dark Shrine, and he doesn't know exactly how fast, because remember, San made 6 stalkers in the beginning, whereas for SaSe, he saw less stalkers than that. He saw a smaller number, he saw the 3 gates. You don't go 3-gate into Robo normally, because that's kind of slow. Robo takes a lot of minerals to dump in, and it just doesn't make a lot of sense. What are you going to do, just go 3 Gateway Zealots on Sop while you make a Colossus? No, you want to go 2-gate Robo. So San has a really good read on the situation. He's like, alright, the Forge, it doesn't cost that much, it's going to prevent me from dying to possible DTs, because he hasn't seen enough stalkers yet. And in the meantime, SaSe, once again, he knows where the bulk of the army is, because at this point you're not just making units, you're also trying to tech up or expand. So he knows where that bulk of units is, and SaSe now can do things like scout, he can maybe put on some pressure. His army actually isn't that fearsome right now, and the Zealots are going to take a long time to get across the map, so don't foresee this pylon actually doing anything, especially where it's placed. If it was placed a little bit further back, maybe he can use it a little bit later in the game, but we'll see how that goes. I don't actually remember exactly how that goes. Now, alright, here is one of the coolest parts of the game. Come on. You gonna see this? Now, obviously, we're having Zealots warped in for San. SaSe's already seen a good number of stalkers. Okay? That leads him to believe if you go Robo on one base, you cannot support Colossi if you overmake stalkers or really make more than 1 sentry at all. So you'll see a lot more Zealots. Also with DTs, you'll see the same. But again, he's seen so many stalkers so early on. Like, he saw those 6 stalkers back when he had 3 stalkers up here, if you remember just a few minutes ago. So seeing that many that early points towards more than the 2 gates, which is what you're going to want when you're going Robo. So this is just, there's like so much information that they're inferring from seeing what each other has. And it's just super, super interesting for those reasons. Now, SaSe has started his robotics. It's a smart move because of all the things I just mentioned. Of course, San already went for a Forge, and of course when you go for the Forge you're going to have to make a couple cannons. It's really dangerous to just go 1. So he's going 1 there and 1 up here. Now of course that makes him a little bit less mobile, but it gives him some other powers as well. He's going to have a bit more gas because he didn't go for a robotics. And in fact, if we go ahead and take a look at the unit count, they both do have 7 stalkers right now. And in fact, we have a little bit more gas for San. Looks like SaSe probably got his gases a little bit early. And don't forget that they're both going DTs obviously, so that used up a huge amount of their gas. Alright, so this game is just, what a beautiful game. The fact that they are inferring so much from each other, the way that they look at it, it's awesome. Alright, so SaSe is bringing up these first couple Dark Templars, and he's getting in there literally in the nick of time. In fact, if San walks up a step and hits hold position, he's in a great spot. Let's slow this down just slightly. Where is everything else? Let me just find everything. And of course, SaSe is attacking forward, because when you have the DTs, oftentimes it turns into the DTs killing a few units and you being able to kill them off with whatever you have left. But San, with the 2 cannons, probably will end up being alright. Well, I know he will because I did see the games, but... Nice little move out there by SaSe, trying to save the Dark Templars. And now he realizes, uh-oh, now I need a Robo. And, this puts SaSe in a really good spot. The fact that San decided to go for the cannons, because let's look at what he's spent on cannons. He's got one right here. He's got two right here, so that's already 450 minerals, and then we have another one that's 600 minerals that he's spent on cannons, and a late robo. Now SaSe's already spent on the robo. He's going to get an observer out, obviously, but a couple of DTs on the way. Let's see. The robo only has the observer about a third of the way done. So basically that 600 minerals spent on cannons and the forge, that's 600 minerals less that he can spend on anything else. Now SaSe's bought a 400 mineral nexus, and most certainly he'll make some probes. So this is the one way that he could actually get ahead from here, choosing to go for the Robotech. Now let's say that San had gone straight into Robo against someone going straight into DTs, and he tried to expand. It gets really dicey for SaSe, but he read everything correctly, and he said this is most likely a DT build, and he basically SaSe, what SaSe did was basically perfect against what San did, whereas what San did was really good against what SaSe did. They both made a lot of correct decisions. It's insanely hard to actually fault you with them, with how they've played this game. That was a smart second cannon. Just barely getting the vision of that. If he loses the Twilight Council, he can't get Blink. That's a terrible situation. This is definitely an area where you're going to want to go Blink instead of Colossi. It's a very wide open map right now. It's kind of in a funky place. I mean, you might even want to go Charge. You know, you can go Charge a lot of Archon. So, I mean, at this point, let's take a look at exactly what's going on, because that Robo's almost done, and San has to decide. I have a Robo on the way, okay, the DT's already in here. If SaSe's really smart, he probably has a DT here, or maybe he doesn't have a DT here, knowing that San is too smart to actually make a Nexus yet. He's going to have to wait for that Observer, because of course if he comes out and tries to make it, and a DT's there, it gets canceled, you lose money, it's really bad. So now San is left with this decision. Does he get an Observer and then go out and expand? Because let's not forget, his DTs didn't really do anything. How many kills? 0 kills. So his DTs did nothing, whereas the DTs of SaSe forced an additional cannon, just kind of, you know, slowed him down a little bit, and are forcing him not to expand. So now he chooses, do I go ahead and expand and just be behind on expansions, just expand late? That's not a good spot. It's PvP. Your opponent just expand before you. SaSe's already shown a great understanding of the game. This is going to be very difficult to come back from. So from right now, I look at it and I say, okay, San's best choice is to make some sort of unit composition to go kill SaSe with. And let's take a look at the layout of Tal'Darim. This is a wide ramp. This is a pretty wide area. Is Charge Lot Archon the best thing that you can do here? Because you already have DT tech. You've already bought a decent amount of Zealots. Or is it Blink Stalker? It is a very hard choice. And here's part of it. Building walls are so good against Charge Lot Archon. What if you go Charge Lot Archon and SaSe makes a very good building wall, then he should be able to hold. But if you go Blink Stalkers and SaSe makes a building wall, you kill the building wall and then kill him. Because normally you're going to have to over-purchase buildings. You have to get like extra gateways that you actually just can't support yet. Because Charge Lot Archon is so difficult to stop at that point in the game when you have an expansion up. So anyways, let's take a look at exactly what he chooses to do. This forge is a very interesting forge. We'll talk a little bit about that, I guess. Now, he can make additional gateways. That might be a good choice, but if you're trying to make additional gateways and catch up on a unit count after you spent a lot of money on a Nexus and getting that quick observer and everything, it may work. Getting cannons up are going to be a little bit quicker, and you can get as many as you want based upon your minerals. Like a Stalker and a cannon cost a similar amount, but a cannon is actually better for strictly defense. So at this point he should realize that San should be going all in. And if you realize that your opponent should be going all in, and if he doesn't, he's in trouble, then you can do something like build a bunch of cannons. And then he's going to have to attack into your cannons, which are better than his Stalkers, and you could build more of them because it wasn't like adding a few gateways. You know, if you add those gateways, it takes a long time for them to get online, and then you make 2 units. Let's say if you added 2 gateways, and then you have to wait for a cooldown and make 2 more units, and don't forget your pylons. You know, the cannons in this situation where he knows that San should be attacking is really, really intelligent, because he's counting on San being intelligent. Now, let's say he makes 3 cannons, and San decided to take the bad end of expanding. Let's say that San was like, forget it, man. Yeah, I'm way behind on expansions, but I'm just going to make an expand. And then he's spent money on like 3 cannons. Then suddenly the game becomes a little bit closer. And maybe that was, well, definitely then, that was the wrong choice for SaSe, even though in theory it is a smarter choice. Alright, so San even adding a couple gates. It's quite obvious that he's going to go for you know, as many zealots and archons as possible, because it's 5 gates. You obviously can't support 5 gate stalker off of 1 base. And in fact, he is not even going to go charge. I actually really like that he's not going charge here. Charge is really expensive. It takes a long time to finish, and if you're just going to all in, you got to hit it really, really quickly. Now SaSe, what has he seen? His observer is kind of over here. He's seeing a proxy pylon. Now he knows. You see this pylon here right now? There's an all-in coming for you. Of course, he has a DT here as well. That DT not going to be too useful. In fact, he has one up here. And at this point, what he should be doing is sending these DTs home. Maybe in a roundabout route. Maybe send them, let's take a look, like send them way down south. Drag the screen a little bit quicker. Send them around like this and come in from the side or something, because if he goes straight through here, San had to wait for that observer, so obviously that's not going to be smart, whereas those DTs are very valuable. Already 1 cannon on the way for SaSe. Take a quick look at the unit counts. 9 zealots, 2 archons, 6 stalkers. Against the 2 DTs are not here. Then we have 3 zealots and 9 stalkers. So alright, SaSe has more stalkers. He has many less zealots. Of course, slow zealots you can micro against, so that's going to be helpful. He has this +1 on the way. When this attack comes, if SaSe cancels the +1, seeing how all in it is, then I'm just going to love SaSe even more than I already do as a Protoss, which is pretty impressive. Also, let's notice that he has a lot of probes. In fact, he's still making probes and chrono boosting. As soon as he actually sees the composition of this, slow zealots and archons really putting on the pain, and his DT sees that there's no expansion, he should be doing things like canceling all his probes that are making, canceling his upgrades, and putting every ounce of what he has into defense, because all he has to do here is hold. His supply is up by 3, but obviously his army supply is a lot lower as he's up by 11 probes. The observer looks like he just wants to go scout. Bringing the observer up to scout is kind of interesting. Obviously going to pass that observer, but his DT's already done, I feel like, the scouting that he needs here. He already knows that there's some cannons in here. What's he going to come in and see exactly? Having an expansion against someone who doesn't have an expansion, you can just make a ton of units. It doesn't matter too much what they are. Just get something like Blink or Immortals or something like that, and you should be able to overwhelm. But it looks like he does know that his opponent is going to attack. And notice he's throwing up these extra cannons. A sentry. Sentries are still good against Zealot Archon. Still very good, because Archons actually, it's so hard to get them up to actually trample force fields. In theory, they're very good against force fields, but in practice, in intense micro situation, force fields are unbelievably good against Archon Zealot. Alright. This hold is actually so amazing, I don't even know what I'll be able to say about it. It comes down to a lot of good micro. Okay. So one thing we want to keep in mind, where is SaSe's observer? Where is it? I mean, not SaSe, San's. Okay, so San does have 2 observers. I actually have to find these because I need to point some stuff out about them. Okay, it's not right there. No. There's 1. And there's 2. Okay. So the observers are super important. And San, if he puts these on the same hotkey, in fact, he has this one on the same hotkey as his army. And that's so dangerous, because if an observer gets sniped, SaSe already has DT tech, and then he auto holds the attack. It's over, he holds it, it's over. So what he's going to have to do, because they have a lot of vision range, is just kind of hold it back. So in a situation like this, you definitely want to keep your observer as far back as possible for San. Now, SaSe has a DT right here, and the thing is, he's not going to want to just send this into this army. You can't just assume that there's no observer here unless you've already seen that, which I don't think he's seen enough to make that decision 100% worth sending in a super expensive Dark Templar. So I feel like right here he pulls back, waits till the army comes up, sees if there's an observer, because if the observer comes into vision, he can grab his cannons and stalkers and just snipe it. And as soon as he snipes it, this attack can fail. But of course, San has a second observer on the way. He realizes that things happen in the heat of battle. So it's a good thing for him to realize. Alright, so at this point, this is... Obviously, San has a very strong, very scary army. Here's what SaSe is doing. He's bringing this DT down. The DT is going to help out a ton. It deals a ton of damage very quickly. Look at that, 45. Ridiculous. But I want to see him cancel this. And also, you know, he's got to just be careful about the actual composition here. Because there's still a decent amount of stalkers. He has the original 6 stalkers still. But it's Zealot Archon for the most part. So any buildings he can get in the way, because this is going to have to go back and forth. There's going to be a lot of micro involved with this. Because he has to decide, like, okay, do I just target things down with all this? It can be hard to attack with Zealots because there's so many Zealots here that you can't just right-click on things with everything you have here. Let's go ahead and see. That's what I was talking about before with this. It looks like this was a little bit premature, but if we take a look at SaSe's unit count, where is his... Oh, I guess it didn't die. I thought he was losing that observer. I mean, that sentry. But, you know, that's protecting. What's he going to do? Walk up with this Archon? No, this Archon has to be attacking that right there. This Archon, maybe it'll walk up and trample it, but really he just wants to put on more damage. So this kind of takes away a lot of the surface area that these Zealots had. They can't attack that anymore. Now this Stalker, look, notice how he's pulling it back already. He's pulling it back into a little choke point. So we have 5 Zealots over here, and what can they attack? No longer the cannon. You don't want to attack the Nexus, the Pylon, or the Forge. They want to attack this Stalker. So these Zealots are not doing what they could be doing. This Zealot obviously wanted to attack that, but now it can't. Now it has to find a new thing. What does it do? Attack cannons that are not attacking right now? Probably not. It wants to go after these Stalkers, but they're placed behind things. This is just a great layout by SaSe. Alright, we gotta pause and look at this a little bit more. SaSe is pulled back, and now the probes are coming up, and just holding these Zealots there. So right now we have these 3 Zealots that are not doing very much. SaSe can lose some probes. All he needs to do is stabilize. He can go down to less probes than San has by a little bit because he has 2 Nexus, and he's actually completely fine and in great shape. All he has to do is stop this attack, and the game is his. Of course, we do have some more warping up here, but this is a great area by SaSe. I just absolutely love it. The Zealot's still trying to get on this cannon, but this is great. This is great for SaSe. Yeah, go ahead, target down that cannon. The cannon has a lot of health. The cannon has a force fielder, so this Zealot is just kind of getting picked off. I'm not exactly sure what this cannon is targeting. I don't think SaSe is probably targeting this himself right now, but he is targeting down this Zealot that's attacking it. So, for instance, if he kills off this Zealot attacking it, and then all the other units are attacking other things, I mean, SaSe's in a great spot. Now this, just a slight bit of miss micro there. Let me see, how do you turn the screen? There you go. Now see, the probes are trying to come up and get the Stalkers behind them. You might be trying to do some stop or hold position micro, something like that. The Zealots are low in health, so it's fine, but he wants to get these behind the probes. You know, the probes are coming up just to help. Notice he still has a fine saturation back at home. Notice the DT's still here. There's no way for San to expand behind this. This attack is pretty much as all-in as they come, even making another pylon. Look how many pylons he has to warp in around this area. San realizes that this is the only chance of victory after his cannons were insufficient. Okay, so that does end up going down. Now, let's take another look at exactly what the unit composition is that's left over here. Now, looking at it right here, it is beginning to look like San should be able to break through. We have a SaSe observer. Where are the San observers? Let's see. San still has 2 observers. Here's one, and here's the other. So these observers still not quite into position. So the DTs SaSe is warping in right now. These are most likely going to make him withdraw. Yeah, he can, you know, there's still 6 Stalkers over here of SaSe that can be gone after with these units. And, you know, these units will do okay against it, but the two DTs are just going to go to town and everything. He wants to save his Archons, he wants to save his Stalkers, and hell, just get another round and go back again. He just killed off a cannon. These aren't quite in yet, but it's a good choice. And in fact, look at that. He did end up canceling it. Oh, SaSe, you make me so happy. Canceling that +1 upgrade. He realized at some point during the battle, oh my god, all I need to do right now is buy units. Cancel that off, gives another 100 minerals, 100 gas, and that's going to be some more units that he can warp in. Alright, so the two DTs should make him run away. Oh, it looks like he's just taking swipes. You might not even notice. Okay, there we go. He realizes finally that, uh-oh, the DTs are dealing insane amounts of damage to my army. It's time to withdraw, especially with these cannons finally coming online. Some of the probes finally getting to the front. But here's a problem right here. He is going to run back to this observer. He'll probably come right back up. I don't remember exactly how this hold went, but he probably will come right back up the ramp as soon as he has that observer so that he can kill the DTs immediately. Now, as he's running, SaSe knows he has observer tech, so he should immediately turn these DTs around. And what he wants to do, in the time that this part of the army is retreating, if SaSe can, if SaSe has his head on 100% perfectly and is the greatest genius ever, he wants to kill off as many of these zealots up here as he can, because these zealots are now alone. And if he can get 5 free unit kills right now while San runs back to actually get his detection, I mean, the position of SaSe is just amazing. Let's not forget he's canceled his upgrades. He's got a good bank. As these units walk away, SaSe should and he will start to make some buildings in here to mess up the AI of the melee zealots and the short-range Archons. Alright, so now he doesn't exactly immediately pull these back, and the observer is coming into range, so he might end up losing some DTs, which is unfortunate. You know, adding even one Archon into SaSe's army could be very helpful and change the way the game will go. And he does end up killing it. Looks like he does end up losing his DTs, but does a good deal of damage with them. Now, these zealots are going to town on probes, but that isn't what matters right now. San realistically should have pulled these down already. Killing these probes off does nothing because San doesn't care about the economy of SaSe. All he cares about is getting a big enough army to roll through him. So this is a small mistake by San. In fact, it's a big mistake. If he brings this down immediately and realizes the second they start attacking probes, because look, 7 kills, 2 kills, those are not unit kills. There might be 1 unit kill in there, 2 unit kills in there, but that's not unit kills. So they're sitting here, they're dealing a lot of damage to the economy, and normally you're like, well, you know, geez, he's killed almost 10 probes with these. And that's normally a good thing for zealots to do, but in this situation, the only thing in the entire world that matters is killing off this area, killing off the units of SaSe. Hell, it would be better to right-click these on that, or one of these, or just chase stalkers with them. Anything like that would have been better than this, and in fact, San may have been able to kill him, if that were the case. So, San making a few slightly sloppy choices, SaSe a little bit more on with the defense. And notice now these zealots, and really not doing anything, took the shields off the cannon, not worthwhile. These still, in fact, these are on hold position, so actually this is just completely an incorrect decision by San. The probe count, once again, does not matter. Who cares about the economy of SaSe? You need to get a big enough army to actually kill SaSe with. And that's it, because that's your only chance. We go back up here. Once again, just to point out, San has no chance to expand. His minerals are getting low. He is on a clock to kill SaSe with. Whereas if SaSe holds, he just sends his probes up from his main and mines here. And then it's 1 base against 0 base as far as mining goes. So this was one of the biggest mistakes. And, you know, in the heat of battle, obviously a pro gamer is going to be like, oh, I'm killing probes for free? This is great. And hold positions zealous. He's like, ha, you messed up with your probes. Nope. I tell you, you know, obviously SaSe doesn't want to lose them, but it's better that he lost these probes than the entire army of San focusing on him when he had so few units left over at the end. So see, these all basically die for free now. I would absolutely give up 10, 12 probes to kill that. And SaSe did. It was very good, very smart. Do not lose that Archon. It's such an important Archon. Forge. That's a pretty decent kill, just so he can't make any more cannons. But at the speed that these battles are going, cannons do take a little bit to warp in. SaSe's economy has been hurt a bit, so it's like, you know, it's not the biggest deal, but a decent kill. This is still an amazing hold by SaSe. It really does come down a lot to his micro as well. Not exactly sure how much there is more to go over this. I love that. Bring back the DT just in case the observer can see it. He doesn't want to get sniped. A decent use of force fields. He needs to kill every single unit he can in any single way he can. Let's warp in some zealots. It's fine. And SaSe, notice now he has brought down at least one of the DTs. And in fact, it looks like... Is the other one on the way? Yeah, so they're both on the way at this point. They cleaned up some pylons, whatever, that doesn't matter so much. But remember I was saying earlier that he should bring them down because it's clearly a very heavy all-in. Well, you know, there's some logic to keeping one here to stall out the expansion, but at this point he realizes I need every single unit that I have on the map to actually hold this, so he's brought them down. It looked like he wanted to try to sneak up and join his army at this one. You know, if he can make an Archon at this point, it's just completely gigantic. But he realized that no, this army's too close, he can snipe off my DT very quickly. This hold is just so astounding. I just want to like totally watch it. Okay, so here we go. He's starting to get a little bit of a hold on. And you know, obviously this has to mean that he wants to make some more cannons. It's fine. And notice this little building wall. It's not a full building wall. It's not the, you know, obviously if you have a full building wall and a lot of stalkers or immortals or whatever behind it, you're going to really ravage this army. But just making that much of a building wall is pretty huge. Now, obviously San could target this down and kill this very quickly. We'll see if he actually ends up doing it. I don't remember. But just making this small funneled choke point. Now let's say that San says, alright, I'm going to move through the choke point. Then he moves through the choke point and then starts attacking. But even in this choke point, I mean, I wish there was some way to make the whole grid pop out, show how small this actually is. It's actually that big. That is a tiny little choke point. Then he's up in here, and it's, the thing is, a lot of this is range. He's got a few zealots in the front. And look, they are actually all in there. He's got all 4 zealots right here. So, when this army actually moves up into this area, all 4 of his zealots are going to be attacking. And that's nice. And then what else does he have? He has a bunch of ranged units. He has the 5 stalkers, the Archon, the Sentry, and the Immortal, as well as 2 cannons. So the only unit he's going to have that's not attacking is this 1 DT in the back, which it doesn't even matter because DTs die in like 2 seconds if they're in the front with observers sitting there, which San... Actually, it's a little bit out of position, but that's okay. SaSe doesn't really know that. So this is a perfect scenario. Now, what is San actually going to have attacking the important things? Well, at first, looks like an Archon will fit right there. He might get a couple Zealots attacking this. This Archon should be able to reach over and attack the cannon as well. And then he's going to have his Stalkers attacking. And then a lot of other stuff might be running around. He might use it to kill off some buildings and stuff. But the point of the matter is that SaSe has more of his attacking units and cannons, more of his defense attacking the offense of San than San has attacking the defense of SaSe. And this is like a key part of this hold. So let's take a look. Notice that he's having a hard time. He's right now tried to right-click a little bit. He's trying to target down the photon cannon. And we have some of the Zealots that going in single file trying to do it. This Archon not really doing anything right now. The Stalkers are fine, of course. The 2 Sentries are fine. I mean, that's not optimal to attack, but just get your damage in anywhere you can. But the Zealots of SaSe go right up, start attacking. He realizes, oh, this is a little bit too clumped. Archons are going to splash his death in 2 seconds, so he's starting to pull back. This is going to die very quickly, so now he can pull these back and spread them a bit more, if possible, during the heat of battle, to block these Zealots from actually attacking units that die to Zealots quickly, like, you know, the Immortal and the Stalkers and the Sentry. He wants these as damage tanks, but not against the Archons. So this is just, it's working out beautifully. SaSe's doing an amazing job here. And who actually did that? That was actually a force field by San. That was kind of cute. I think he was trying to push back some Stalkers to get less damage happening on his units over here, but it hit the edge of the Archon, so whatever. It was a cute choice. maybe he should have waited for Guardian Shield. But anyways, this is just what a wonderful little battle. So now at this point, all of the front zealots of SaSe, I believe, are gone. This is actually getting so hard to see what's going on with all these little trees. Okay, so we still have a couple zealots in here of San. Only 2 though. That's not too bad. One of them's almost dead. So he wants to remove these 2 zealots because zealots deal really quick damage per second output, like really quick. And then without the zealots there to tank damage and deal some extra damage, with this set of units, he can target down Archons really quickly. If he kills off Archons, I mean, eventually Stalkers just will out-micro the rest. There's only 2 Stalkers here. There's 2 Sentries. Sentries don't even count. And then we have like some slow Zealots coming. So killing the Archons, that's one of the biggest parts that he can possibly do. And then SaSe should be able to take it. So notice that walking back. Oh, and he actually, there's a little bit of danger in that, but that's also a smart move. If you look at this and you're like, oh, I think I might die, but he targeted down the Observer instead of other units. So he's lost, because of that, a Sentry. He's lost a lot of health on some of his units as well. But if that is it as far as Observers go for San, then that can be a free win where he just warps into DT or 2 and just cleans everything up. Look at SaSe's money still up here in the top right. He still has a lot of money. It looks like he can warp in about 2 DTs in a second here. And of course San does have the extra Observer, so it's like whatever, but I like it. It's a slightly risky but very cool. That's something you should always be looking for in PvP if they have undermanned Observers. It's a little bit of mistargeting by the Immortal, targeting a lot of Archons. Obviously it's still going to deal 20 damage to them, but you want, if possible, to hit the Stalkers. Probes coming down once again. There is still that Observer. And at this point, it looks like SaSe's in some trouble. Of course, let's not forget, once again, the Stalkers can out-micro things pretty well. How many gates does he actually have right here? Okay, he only has 3 gates operational. We'll see if he ever gets that 4th on the way. Where's the closest pylon? It's right here. So he's still warping in units, but right now for San, it looks like it's mostly Zealots. I don't actually like the fact he's still going Zealots at this point. It's very clearly just a micro battle. He has plenty of gas, and in fact this is 2 Zealots he's warping. Look, he has 60 minerals left over. This could be 2 Stalkers. Absolutely could be. And with 2 more Stalkers in here, then he has 4 Stalkers, all with full health, plus his Archons against, we have 5 hurt Stalkers from SaSe right this second. A very hurt Immortal that looks like it's going to go down in a second. Then 1 Archon against 3. San has messed up quite a few times here, but SaSe has really kept his cool as well. It's like a very impressive hold. So the DTs do come in. He had that idea. Luckily, he saves them into an Archon, which is great. Just adding Archons, especially once again. San is warping in Zealots. If these were Stalkers, then suddenly this Archon is very much less useful. For instance, right now, let's say that 2 of these are Stalkers. As he micros away, he probably grabs at least these units. He might just run with these because he doesn't want additional damage on these Archons. But with these units, he could right-click, target, run, target, and then SaSe is going to stay in this choke. He can't come out into the open. That's a little bit too dangerous. So once again, the extra Zealot's not quite right. That is beautiful right there. SaSe just led him back far enough with these Zealots that when he turned around to actually attack, there wouldn't be a full volley from these units back here. Just really smart, good micro move. I like this by San as well, trying to kill off this Archon. Just trading a little bit of Zealot health for an Archon is a great move if you can do it. But looks like his stuff is too low on health. And so SaSe's hold starts to become reality against too many Zealots. Notice he's continuing to warp in Zealots despite a good amount of Archons. Again, if all these were in fact Stalkers, what if the last 6 Zealots he warped in were Stalkers? Then he has like 9 Stalkers right now. I feel like he's in much better shape once again. It's impossible to make all the right decisions in the game, I guess. That's your Flash or Jadon. So I think that we're nearing the end of anything that we can actually learn out of this. Yeah. Well, that's the end of the replay, so I guess that is the end of anything we can learn out of this. So we still have a little bit of time. We can probably go into another game here. Really superb game. Great play. They both really saw what was going on in so many ways, on so many levels there. SaSe just a little bit more. Again, if Son had chosen a different tech route, then maybe he could have won earlier on because of SaSe going right up to the Robo. But seeing all those stalkers so quickly really gave SaSe he really saw what was going on with that. It was just, I loved that game. That was one of my favorite games from the entire Winter Arena. I thought it was just brilliant. One second, I'm trying to find another game to go into. Alright, we're going to do the game 3 of that series as well, because game 3 was played even more beautifully by SaSe. Just a completely superbly played game. We'll start that in just 1 second here, guys. Alright, so here we go into this. We'll fast forward a little bit. I want to go into some of the broader strokes of what SaSe actually did this game, because he outplayed Son in like 1,000 ways. It was beautiful. And then at the end got really sloppy and messed up, but So I'm not going to really harp on the early opening builds here, or the messed up scouting by SaSe where he hasn't checked for a proxy. You got to be really careful about things like that. Son doesn't really do that too often, so maybe he knows that. I don't know. 2 gateway opening, very smart by SaSe. Gives you map control. Nice quick robo by Son, I like it. Everything's good, everything's cool. Alright, so having the probe there, that's kind of neat. Oh, a proxy pylon by Son. That proxy pylon by Son really doesn't do anything. I'm wondering why it's even there. That might just be there for really later game use. The positioning of it even doesn't make the most sense. I mean, that's not even a good warping location. You got warping on a ramp is problematic because you can do warp in there, warp in up here, and walk down. This is like the first thing you're going to see if you're scouting over here. It probably would have been smart to make it maybe here or something, so he has a little warp in area there. I don't know, a little bit weird. But anyways, let's go ahead and keep going. Kills off that probe. Now this is going to put Son a bit on the defensive. Now, it's 3 stalkers, a probe, and a zealot. And it's only 2 gates. So this is basically a 2 gateway pressure. He's going into Twilight. But it's a 2 gateway pressure. And, of course, there's, especially on Tal'Darim and Belshire Beach, we have the tactical wheel. But to a lesser degree on other maps we have it, where, well, a 3-gate pressure can be really good. But to defend a 3-gate pressure, you kind of only need, 2 gates and good micro and top of a ramp and a sentry, stuff like that. So a 2-gate pressure, it's like, well, it's gonna look like a 3-gate pressure at first to your opponent. That's what it's gonna look like. They're gonna be like, oh no, is it a 3-gate? And they try to start defending it. They might over defend it a little bit, and you gain a little bit of an advantage. He does have 2 sentries, and I mean that's already a great situation for SaSe, that he's gotten him to make 2 sentries. But Son doesn't really care. We see that he's actually going Robotech and a 3rd gate as well. Okay, so what it looks like from Son right now is that he wants to expand, perhaps. Normally, if you're going to go up to Colossus Tech, or even Speed Warp Prism Immortal drops, you're not going to want that 3rd gate quite so quickly. So, kind of interesting build here by Son. You might be afraid that this is a little bit more all-in-ish. You might think that this is just a Blink Rush, which, for right now, if I hadn't seen the game, I would say there's a possibility of that. There's a possibility of that. There's Twilight Council out. So anyways, SaSe is going to hold it fine because he has enough force fields. And SaSe is just making him burn those. Throwing away his ult to burn another force field and see the Immortal. Completely worth it. Alright, so what has San seen? He's seen Stalkers and a Zealot. If I'm San right now, I do think that it is a Blink Tech build. What has SaSe seen? Well, he's seen the Double Sentry and he's seen an Immortal. So if I am SaSe right now, I'm thinking, okay, this could definitely be an expansion. It could definitely be... it could be a Speed Warp Prism. I wouldn't necessarily think that. Could be a Colossus all-in. So that's some of the things that he's going to have to be thinking about. If I'm him right now, I'm thinking maybe, you know, this is the fast expand though. That would be one of my better guesses. Not necessarily the best idea for someone right this second, but anyways, this is a good move by SaSe. Just kind of holding that ramp for a bit. You know, against Immortals you can do that. And then he runs back. Okay, totally cool. He might be afraid that, in fact, there is a Warp Prism coming out, and with the second Immortal and Warp Prism dropped here and going down the ramp, then suddenly he loses a bunch of Stalkers and it gets gross. Instead, he's going to go over here. I love the removing of the rocks. I think on this map in particular, not enough pro gamers do this, where you remove these rocks so that your blink micro is more efficient, so you don't have to use a blink to get up and down. You can walk up and down the ramp and then use the blinks more based upon the main base. Of course, this is a Blink Observer build. He's even going for the 4th gate. So that means that SaSe's expansion is going to be pretty late. He's going to really focus on harassing San, which is the right way to play a Blink Observer build. Just keeping a single Stalker over here. Of course, he can blink away just to see what's going on. In fact, you see San is kind of microing up and down trying to see what's down here. He doesn't know how many are down here. It's very hard to see. Do you give up the Zealot to see? Probably eventually, yeah. And of course we do have Colossus on the way. No range yet though. Now, when he sees that it's Blink Observer, there's two ways that you can handle this as San. As the player going for the 1-base Colossus so far, there's two ways to handle this. One is easier and will work a lot, and the other is harder, but in theory the correct way to do it if you really respect your opponent and think that he's capable of playing Blink Observer at a super high level. If they play Blink Observer on a super high level, you are going to want to expand. You're going to want to get the range, spread your units just right, and take an expansion. Now, if you aren't quite that good, or you think that he might make some more mistakes, or you have some sort of plan where, I mean, you just want to play a little bit wrong, but it's still very powerful and will win a ton of games, you can just go ahead and all in from this situation. But the thing is, the blink user can, once you leave your base, he blinks in, and then you have to decide, do I go back and defend? Then you've already taken damage, he's getting ahead. If you don't go back and defend, you've already lost your base, and it's time to go back and help defend his. And of course he has blink, which means that it's going to come down a lot to micro. So we'll have to see exactly, well, we already know for anyone who watched what San will do, but we'll talk more about that in a minute. Alright, so the harassment has begun. You're just blinking up, doing whatever damage you can. Let's see, yeah, he killed like a probe or maybe two right there with that, so it's fine, just as long as he's not losing stuff. He sees what's going on. He sees the Colossi